Gym! Will it ADHD? Let's find out.
Hi, I'm Elle, and I have ADHD. So I'm starting a series where I test things people say help ADHD, and I rate whether they actually work for someone like me that actually has it. And the first thing we're rating today is the gym. This is my gym fit, by the way. Me gathering all the things I'm going to bring with me on my journey. So first starting, what is ADHD? ADHD is attention deficit or hyperactivity disorder. It's a neurodevelopmental condition. It involves persistent patterns of inattention, hyperactivity, and impulsivity that interfere with daily functioning. And there's many different degrees depending on the person. It's not laziness. It's not a lack of discipline. It's just a difference in how the brain regulates attention, motivation, and executive functioning. So what does this mean? Some things that research has shown us is that, like many other things with the body, physical activity can improve attention, inhibitory control, and working memory in people with ADHD. Exercise increases dopamine and norepinephrine and the neurotransmitters that are central to focus and regulation. There's also evidence that suggests exercise increases brain-deprived neurotropic factors, or BDNF, which supports neuroplasticity. It's not a replacement for medical care either, but it may be a helpful tool to support someone that's dealing with neurodivergence in that way. And now for a quick history of the gym. The word gym comes from the ancient Greek gymnasium, from the word gymnos, meaning naked. In ancient Greece, mostly men, trained and competed unclothed. Gymnasias were not just workout spaces. They were centers of education, philosophy, and civic life. And especially back in the day, most of the time people were working out for the sake of protecting their nation in a military form. It wasn't until the late 1700s, Johann Christoph Friedrich Gutsmuth, that's how you pronounce that, published one of the earliest formal texts on structured gymnastics training. In the early 1800s, Frederick Ludwig Jahn helped popularize organized gymnastics spaces in Germany. By the late 19th century, institutions like the YMCA were building purpose-designed gymnasiums across the United States, shaping modern fitness culture as a whole. But wait, don't think I forgot. It's February, and since it's February, it's worth acknowledging something. Access to gyms and recreational facilities in the United States weren't always equal. Many public and private athletic spaces were segregated under Jim Crow laws and discriminatory practices. It's Black History Month, you guys. The Civil Rights Act of 1964 prohibited discrimination in places of public accommodation, including recreational facilities. Black excellence in athletics existed long before equal access did, however. In 1908, John Baxter Taylor Jr. became the first Black American to win an Olympic gold medal. In 1947, Jackie Robinson broke Major League Baseball's color barrier, transforming professional sports in the United States. Movement has always been a part of the Black survival and excellence, even when access to formal wellness spaces were denied. So when I walk into a gym today, that context still exists too. But let's get back to ADHD. Okay, history acknowledged. Now let's talk about whether this place, lights, machines, mirrors, people, actually helps my ADHD. And I have a testing framework. I'm going to be using a testing framework based on 6 categories. The first one being activation cost. How hard was it to start? The second, dopamine return. How did I feel afterwards? The third, focus spillover. Did it help my brain afterwards at all? The fourth, sensory load. Was it at all overstimulating? The fifth, consistency potential. Could I realistically keep doing this? And 6 is miscellaneous for things like wild card events, time drift, confusion, unexpected pros and cons. So while I'm doing my slow movement calisthenics and stretching, and eventually in the car, disregard that, I'm going to tell you what my rating ended up being for the gym. So for activation cost, I gave it a 2 out of 5. Here's the thing. When it comes to the gym, and we're specifically just focusing on a gym, you still have to get up. You have to get ready. You have to get going. And this involves a lot of executive functioning. There is a thing It's called executive paralyzation. That's one way that it can be named, but there's many other ways for it, but essentially it's the difficulty of getting started in a task. The activation cost is pretty high for the gym, mainly because you have to get ready, you have to get dressed, you have to go out into public. Sometimes you have to drive, unless your gym is literally in your home. It is a process, and sometimes that process can be difficult to get started. It gets a 2 out of 5 for me for that. Dopamine return. How did I feel afterwards? The dopamine return, I gave it a 5 out of 5, y'all. Going to the gym, working out, getting your body pumping and moving, it does give you a rush. It's a really good feeling. I'm able to really focus and zone out in ways that's difficult to do when I'm just being more stagnant. You get out a lot of excess energy and need to move. And so in that way, it gets a 5 out of 5 for me for dopamine return. Focus spillover. That's 4 out of 5 for me on this one. Now, it does for sure 100% help you feel motivated, directed, and energized to move on to several different tasks. I wouldn't say that the release of that is long lasting in the moment. Maybe over time, it can definitely increase things and help. But in the moment, you might get kind of like a really focused thing. And then a lot of times, depending on how hard you're working out, you might get fatigued and it might knock you out, put you on your back. So it got a 4 out of 5 for me for that. The next one is sensory load. That's 3 out of 5 for me. So mostly when I go to the gym, I don't really have an issue of being overstimulated, but I have definitely been to gyms that I cannot go work out in because they were exactly overstimulating. So I'm taking into consideration my past experience with gyms as well. Specifically, no tea, no shade, Planet Fitness, the purple is way too intense for me. There's something about the color palette that when I go there, it's just very harsh on my eyes and my attention span is shot. I feel very overstrained when I go into Planet Fitness. The gym I found presently is one that I chose specifically because there aren't a lot of harsh colors in the gym itself. And the lighting is actually almost a slightly dimmer tone than I've noticed in other gyms, because sometimes a really harsh light can also be overstimulating. The music is played at the normal volume. It's a good level. It's not too loud. And it's usually music I enjoy. So that's really nice as well. As far as the layouts are most of the time pretty smooth with the gyms that I tend to go to, but I have been to larger versions of the gym I go to, and it can be a bit overwhelming for all the machines to be clustered in the center instead of broken out into specific sections, which could be easier to process on, okay, step 1, I'm going to go over here for the legs. Step 2, I'm going to do this. I understand why they do it, especially on the bigger ones, but it is, it's going to get a 3 out of 5 for me. It can be overstimulating, and you might have to shop around different gyms until you find something that's going to work for you specifically. And second to last, I have consistency potential. I gave it a 4 out of 5, surprisingly, mostly because I think if you can get over the activation cost, when you get into the routine, it releases enough dopamine that you can be driven towards it. And the thing about the gym is there's always so much variety to keep you interested and engaging. There's classes to keep you accountable, where you can have actual people holding you accountable. You can also do personal training. There's also, at least for the gym that I have, there's an app with free workouts that are diverse. And then there's a plethora of other things you can look up yourself and different machines to where you can set out a routine that makes it interesting and fun each time. The consistency gets easier the more you do it. It's more of the activation cost that's a bit lower on the upfront. At least for me, I've noticed. But once I'm in the regular with it, it's like I kind of crave it, and it's easier to go back and back and back and back for that specifically. But I do have to make sure that I'm keeping what I'm actually doing at the gym interesting and fun and different almost every time. Otherwise, it is a lot harder for me to motivate myself to go to it. So last but not least, certainly not least, I have miscellaneous. And I gave it a 2 out of 5, y'all. Miscellaneous. And this is only, well, one of the main reasons I gave it is because, like I said, the activation cost is really high. But once you're there, there's almost nothing controlling your focus when you're at the gym. You really do need to have kind of a plan before you go into it, because you can get easily distracted. You can get easily lost in the sauce, as I like to say, where you start out doing one thing and you're like, I'm going to be here for 20 minutes, and you end up being there for 4 hours. I've done it. It happens. Time blindness is a real thing. And it happens a lot for me at the gym. You're getting a lot of dopamine. There's a lot of different stimulating things to tap into. So it can be tricky scheduling and maintaining an orderly structure when you're doing something, especially when you're feeling good and having fun and really focused on it. Sometimes the clocks are helpful, but I've noticed that you really do have to I set timers when I go into the gym to make sure that I know when to be done, when I need to start stretching, and when I need to go home. And then, of course, getting lost. If you don't know where to start, it can be very intimidating for someone that has already a high challenge with activation and getting started somewhere. It can be a lot, and not everyone wants to pay for, a trainer. So sometimes it's easy to find help at the gym. And sometimes it could be trickier depending on which gym you're at and your comfort level going up to people and asking for help. That's the only thing I would say that puts it on the 2 out of 5. For miscellaneous for me is that there's almost no tracking of time, especially if you're at a gym where you don't have windows readily available where you can see what time of day it is. Yeah. So overall, the gym gets a 20 out of 30 for me, y'all. I had a lot of fun doing this, and my overall verdict, even though maybe that's not a great grade, 20 out of 30, I'm going to give the gym a passing. Will it ADHD? And that is for sure it will ADHD, but that is just highly dependent upon the individual and what you need. The interpretation here is it gives you incredible dopamine, strong focus boost, but getting there and not losing hours once you're in there can kind of knock down the scoring, especially depending on the gym. But it does work, and it works just a little bit more conditionally than maybe we would think. So, honestly, this is still a huge opportunity to really find something that works for you and have a great time at the gym. Imagine if we had neurodivergent friendly gyms that were clearer, instructed, with clear structure, visual workout maps, timed circuits, low sensory hours, guided starting points so you don't waste 30 minutes deciding what to do. It feels like it's an untapped market. So anyone watching this is food for thought. Sit on that. You might be tapping into a niche that just hasn't been looked into. Is catering to people with ADHD, and given that it's on the rise, it might be a good thing to kind of dip your toe into. How do we make gyms more ADHD friendly? All right, that's me. I'm Ellie. Talk to you later.